So let's discuss another problem on corporate income tax. And this discussion is again for regular corporations like domestic and resident foreign corporations. So this procedure will not apply on non-resident foreign corporations. So let us start with the problem. ABC Corporation, a domestic corporation, is in its 20th year of operations and has the following information during 2020 to 2025. Remember in our last discussion that regular corporations are subject to regular corporate income tax or RCIT and minimum corporate income tax. So the regular corporate income tax will be imposed on taxpayers starting the first year of their operations. However, for the MCIT, they will only be liable for MCIT at the start of their fourth year of operations. And since the taxpayer in our problem is already in its 20th year, so it means that this taxpayer is already liable for both RCIT and MCIT. So when we compute for the tax liability of this particular taxpayer, every year we're going to compute both the RCIT and the MCIT. So let us start with the computation for 2020. So the gross sales is 882,000. Cost of sales is 252,000 pesos. Then the gross income is 630,000 pesos. Then we have a dividend income from resident foreign corporation. So this is subject to normal tax. So this is added to the 630,000 pesos. So that is 20,000 pesos. Then our gross business income is 650,000 pesos. Again, regular corporate income tax and minimum corporate income tax are under the normal tax system. It is not under final tax. That is why when we compute for the RCIT and the MCIT, the income that are included are those income that are subject to normal tax. However, since dividend income from a domestic corporation is an intercorporate dividend, so it is tax exempt because the taxpayer is a domestic corporation and it is received from another domestic corporation. So this is an intercorporate dividend, and intercorporate dividend are tax exempt. Again, these are tax exempt. These are not subject to final tax. Unlike for an individual taxpayer, a dividend income received from a domestic corporation is subject to final tax. A corporation, domestic or a resident foreign corporation receiving a dividend from another domestic corporation is tax exempt. So now let's continue. So after gross business income, let us deduct the itemized deductions 640,000 pesos. So our taxable income or net operating loss in case the itemized deduction is more than the gross business income is 10,000 pesos. So now let us proceed to 2021. So before we compute for the RCIT and the MCIT, let us first compute for the taxable income or net operating loss for the years 2020 until 2024. So for 2021, we have a gross sales of 420,000, cost of sales of 120, gross income is 300,000 pesos. This is the gross profit from sales. Then let us add dividend income, but this time we have no dividend income from resident foreign corporation. So our gross business income is 300,000 pesos. Itemized deductions is 275, so we have a taxable income of 25,000 pesos. Then in 2022, gross sales is 980, less cost of sales of 280. Gross income is 700,000. Then we add the dividend income from resident foreign corporation, 50,000 pesos. Then gross business income, less itemized deductions for 754. Then we have a net operating loss of 4,000 pesos. Again, since we have a net operating loss, remember the rule on net operating loss that it can be carried over in the next 3 succeeding years. So it means it can be deducted from the gross business income, and that will be until 2025. So 3 years starting 2022 So 2023, 2024, and 2025. So the 4,000 net operating loss shall be deductible only until 2025. Otherwise, it will no longer be allowed to be deducted beyond 2025. So now let us proceed to 2023. So our gross sales is 861,000 pesos. The cost of sales is 246. So gross income is 615,000 pesos. Then let's add again our dividend income from a resident foreign corporation, that is 10,000 pesos. Then we have a gross business income of 625,000 pesos. Then let us deduct the itemized deductions for the year of 596,000 pesos. Then we have a taxable income of 29,000 pesos. And since this time the entity has a taxable income of 29,000 pesos, and in 2022 we incurred a net operating loss of 4,000 pesos, it means that the 4,000 net operating loss in 2022 can be carried over in 2023 as additional deductions from the 29,000 pesos. So since this time in 2023 we have a taxable income of 29,000 pesos, it means that we can apply the NOLCO of 4,000 that was incurred in 2022 in full in 2023. So we can deduct the 4,000 pesos in full. It means that no portion of the 4,000 NOLCO will expire at the end of 2025. So let us deduct the NOLCO. So this is the applied NOLCO, 4,000 pesos. So our taxable income in 2023 is 25,000 pesos. Then in 2024, our gross sales is 630,000 pesos. Our cost of sales is 180. Then our gross income is 450,000 pesos. Again, we have no dividend income from a resident foreign corporation, so our gross business income is 450,000 pesos. Then let us deduct the itemized deductions in 2024 of 415,000. Then our taxable income in 2024 is 35,000 pesos. So now let us compute for the income taxes due of the taxpayer. Let's start with the easier one, the final tax. So based on the problem, the income that is subject to final tax is only the interest income from bank deposit, because the dividend income from a domestic corporation is exempted from tax. So our income only subject to final tax is the interest income from bank deposit. And that is the reason the interest income from bank deposit is also not included in the computation of the taxable income, because again, the computation of the taxable income for the RCIT and MCIT purposes are those income that are subject to normal tax. So let us start the computation of the final taxes. Again, that will be for 2020 until 2024. So for 2020, we have a 2,000 interest income. In 2021, 2,800. 2022 is 3,000. 2023 is 4,000. And in 2024, 3,500. And of course, the final tax rate on interest income from bank deposit is at 20%. So let us multiply this to the tax rate of 20%. So the final tax due on 2020 interest income is 400 pesos. In 2021 is 560. 2022 is 600. 2023 is 800. And in 2024 is 700 pesos. So now we're done with the computation of final tax. Let us proceed to the normal tax. So first, let us compute for the RCIT and MCIT. So in 2020, the RCIT is 3,000 pesos. And this is the 30% of 10,000 pesos, the taxable income in 2020. And our MCIT is 13,000 pesos. So 13,000 pesos is 2% of 650,000 pesos gross business income. Again, MCIT is at 2% of gross income. So that is 650,000 pesos. Then in 2021, RCIT is 7,500, and that is 30% of 25,000 pesos taxable income in 2021. Then the MCIT in 2021 is 2% of 300,000 pesos. So that will be 6,000 pesos. Then in 2022, since we have NOLCO, we have a net operating loss. It means that we have no RCIT. That is why we only compute for the MCIT in 2022. So our gross business income is 750,000 pesos in 2022, and multiply this to 2%, our MCIT is 15,000 pesos. Again, if the entity incurred NOLCO, the taxpayer shall not be liable for RCIT. However, since gross business income is still in its positive amount, the taxpayer shall be liable for the payment of MCIT. So it means that even if the taxpayer has an operating loss for the year, the taxpayer shall still be liable for MCIT, minimum corporate income tax. The taxpayer should not pay below the minimum. Then in 2023, our RCIT, 30% of 25,000 pesos net taxable income, so that will be 7,500. Then MCIT, which is 2% of 625,000 pesos, so that is 12,500. Then in 2024, our taxable income is 35,000 pesos, so multiplied by 30%, so that is 10,500. And our MCIT is 2% of 450,000 pesos, so that is 9,000 pesos. So now let us determine the income tax due for each year. Again, the income tax due that will be paid by the taxpayer shall be the higher amount between RCIT and MCIT. And the figures that in different colors are the higher amount. So in 2020, the amount to be paid is MCIT, that is 13,000 pesos. In 2021, we have RCIT, and in 2022, we're going to pay 15,000 pesos. In 2023, we're going to pay for 12,500, and in 2024, our tax liability is 10,500. Now let us compute for the amount of tax still due and payable at the end of each year. So let us start with 2020. So again, the income tax due is the higher amount. So in 2020, the higher amount is 13,000 pesos. So the 13,000 pesos shall be payable by the taxpayer if there will be no tax credits. However, for this discussion, our tax credit will be the excess MCIT. And again, how do we compute for excess MCIT? So excess MCIT happens when MCIT for a particular year is greater than the RCIT. So the excess MCIT, similar to NOLCO, is deductible in the next 3 succeeding years against RCIT if the RCIT is higher and is computed on an annual basis, not quarterly. Then any unused excess MCIT after the lapse of 3 years is forfeited. So similar to NOLCO, excess MCIT can only be deducted in the next 3 years, and if there are excess MCITs still not applied against RCIT, any amount shall be expired. So now let us compute for the income tax still due and payable. So let us start with 2020. So for 2020, our income tax due, which is the higher amount between MCIT and RCIT, is 13,000 pesos. So this is MCIT. So the 13,000 pesos shall be payable if there will be no tax credits like CWTs or quarterly income tax payment. However, there are no information given, and the only tax credit that we can determine is the excess MCIT. So the income tax due will be reduced by excess MCIT. And again, excess MCIT can only be deducted if the higher amount between MCIT and RCIT is RCIT. So that is why for the years 2020 until 2024, we can only deduct excess MCIT during 2021 and 2024 because these are the years that RCIT is higher than MCIT. Again, excess MCIT can only be deducted once the RCIT is higher than MCIT. So since the income tax due for 2020 is an MCIT, It means that if there are excess MCIT in the prior years, so before 2020, it is not allowed to be deducted from 13,000 pesos because again, the higher amount in 2020 is MCIT. But we are going to leave space for the tax credit, so that will be for the excess MCIT in the future years. Again, in 2020, we have no excess MCIT. That is why our income tax still due and payable for the year is 13,000 pesos. And again, this is payable on or before April 15 of the next year. And since in 2020, the higher amount is MCIT, so that is 13,000 pesos, it means that there will be an excess MCIT. So the excess MCIT for the year is 10,000 pesos. So that is 13,000 less 3,000 pesos of RCIT. Again, excess MCIT is the difference between MCIT and RCIT. So let us prepare a schedule for the monitoring of excess MCIT. So we have schedule 1 because I have another schedule for excess MCIT which is in different format but will still arrive at the same computation. So we will start with the beginning balance, of course. Then it will increase for any excess MCIT during the year. Then it will be reduced for any amount of excess MCIT applied against RCIT. Then also it will also be reduced if there are portions expired, which means these are the portions that were unused at the end of the 3-year period. Then of course the ending balance. So let us start with 2020. So we have no beginning balance for 2020. However, the excess MCIT for 2020 will increase by 10,000 pesos. Again, this is the difference between the MCIT of 13,000 pesos less 3,000 pesos RCIT. Then, of course, since the higher amount in 2020 is MCIT, there will be no application of excess MCIT against RCIT. So that will be 0. And we have no expiration during the year. So our ending balance in 2020 is 10,000 pesos. So now let us compute for the income tax still due and payable in 2021. So again, the higher amount in 2021 is the RCIT because 7,500 is greater than 6,000 pesos. So that will be the income tax due. And since this is RCIT, again, excess MCIT can be deducted from the income tax due once the higher amount is RCIT. And since the 2021 income tax due is RCIT, so that is 7,500, it means that we can apply the excess MCIT available at the start of 2021. And the available excess MCIT at the start is 10,000 pesos. Of course, the amount to be deducted from the 7,500 should not exceed the amount of income tax due and the amount of the available excess MCIT. So in this case, we can only deduct up to 7,500 pesos. It means that at the end of 2021, the entity has no tax liability because we already applied in full the 7,500 excess MCIT. So now let us proceed to the monitoring of the excess MCIT for 2021. So of course, in 2021, our beginning balance is 10,000 pesos. This is the ending balance in 2020. Then since the MCIT is lower in 2021, so there will be no current year excess MCIT because this section is only increased if MCIT is higher than RCIT. Then now, since we already applied 7,500 because RCIT is higher in 2021, it means that this section has a deduction of 7,500 pesos. And again, there is no expiration in 2021. So our ending balance in 2021 is 2,500 pesos. So now let us proceed to 2022. Again, in 2022, we have no RCIT because we incur a net operating loss at the end of 2022. However, it does not necessarily mean that there will be no MCIT because the MCIT is based on the gross business income. That is why its 2% is 15,000 pesos. And since RCIT is 0, the income tax due is MCIT, which is the higher amount. And again, since MCIT is greater in 2022, we cannot deduct the available excess MCIT of 2,500 pesos because as of the start of 2022, we have an available excess MCIT of 2,500 that can be deducted in 2022 in case the higher amount is RCIT. But since the higher amount is MCIT in 2022, we cannot deduct the 2,500 from the 15,000 pesos. So that is zero. So that is why our income tax still due and payable at the end of 2022 is 15,000 pesos. Now let us update the monitoring of excess MCIT schedule. So for 2022, we will start with a balance of 2,500. And since MCIT is greater than RCIT in this year, there is an excess MCIT for 2022 of 15,000 pesos. So that is 15,000 less 0. Then, since RCIT is lower than MCIT in 2022, there is no applied excess MCIT for this year. And there will be no expiration. So that is why our ending balance in 2022 is 17,500 pesos. Now let us proceed to 2023. So in 2023, again, MCIT is greater than RCIT. So the income tax due is 12,500. And since MCIT is greater than RCIT, there will be no applied excess MCIT. And since in 2023, the higher amount is MCIT, it means that there will be no excess MCIT that will be deducted from the 12,500. So because again, excess MCIT shall only be deducted against RCIT. So that is why this will be 0. So the income tax still due and payable of the entity is 12,500. Then let us update the schedule in 2023. So our beginning balance for 2023 is 17,500 pesos. Then the current year excess MCIT, because MCIT is greater than RCIT in 2023, that will be 5,000 pesos. So this is the difference between 12,500 and 7,500 pesos. And then we have no applied excess MCIT in 2023, so that will be 0. And since this is the last year of the excess MCIT that was incurred in 2020, there will be an expired portion, so that is 2,500 pesos. And the 2,500 pesos is computed as 10,000 less 7,500 is equals to 2,500 pesos because the 10,000 pesos can only be deducted against RCIT until 2023 and only 7,500 was applied from the amount of 10,000 pesos. So the ending balance of excess MCIT at the end of 2023 is 20,000 pesos. And the 20,000 pesos is from the 15,000 excess MCIT in 2022 and the 5,000 in 2023. So now let's proceed to 2024. This time the higher amount is RCIT. So the income tax due in 2024 is 10,500. And since the higher amount is RCIT, it means that we can deduct any excess MCIT against 10,500 pesos. That will come from the available balance at the start of 2024. And the opening balance of excess MCIT is 20,000 pesos. So again, the amount deductible is the lower amount between 10,500 and the available balance of 20,000. So it means that we can only deduct up to 10,500 pesos. So that will be 10,500. Then the income tax still due and payable of the entity at the end of the year is 0. So let us update the schedule for excess MCIT in 2024. So that will be 20,000, the beginning balance. And again, since the MCIT is lower in this year, 2024, this section is 0. Then, since in 2024, RCIT is greater than MCIT, we have an applied excess MCIT of 10,500. Then, there are no expirations in 2024, So that is why our ending balance in 2024 is 9,500 pesos. So now let us prepare the schedule number 2 for excess MCIT. So for this schedule, we are able to monitor the excess MCIT for each year because the limitation in schedule number 1 is that we cannot monitor the amount of expiration of excess MCIT. But for schedule number 2, the format will enable us to determine easier the amount amount of excess MCIT that is scheduled for expiration. So let us start with the heading. So that will be the December 31 balances, then the changes, it's either an increase or decrease, then the ending balance as of December 31. So these are the years 2020 until 2023. So there will be no 2024 because in 2024 MCIT is lower than RCIT. So let us start with 2020 December 31. And again in 2020, the taxpayer has an excess MCIT of 10,000 pesos. So it means that it will increase the excess MCIT. That is why the ending balance is 10,000 pesos. And in 2021, we have a decrease of 7,500 in 2021. And the 7,500 was taken from the 10,000 peso excess MCIT that was incurred in 2020. So that will be 7,500 decrease. That is why 10,000 less 7,500, the ending balance at the end of 2021 is 2,500. Again, the 7,500 was deducted in 2021, but the 7,500 was taken from the 10,000 peso excess MCIT in 2020. Then in 2022, we have an excess MCIT of 15,000 pesos. It means this is an increase. That is why our ending balance is 17,500. Then in 2023, we have an excess MCIT of 5,000 pesos. That is why this will be an increase in our excess MCIT schedule. However, there is a scheduled expiration in 2023 that will be the remaining unused for the 10,000 pesos excess MCIT that was incurred in 2020 because the 3 years for the 10,000 pesos will end in 2023. And since the 10,000 is only available for application against RCIT until 2023 and there is a remaining amount still unused, so that will already expire before the end of 2023. So that is 2,500. That is why the net change in 2023 is 2,500 and that is 5,000 less 2,500. So our balance is 20,000 pesos. That is at the end of 2023. Then for 2024, the amount of change will be the applied excess MCIT of 10,500 pesos. Again, the 10,500 pesos, since the 10,000 can no longer be used in 2022, the 10,500 was taken from the 15,000 pesos excess MCIT that was incurred in 2022. And this will expire in 2025 because the 10,500 was already applied in its second year. So that change in 2024 is a negative 10,500. That is why our ending balance in 2024 is 9,500 pesos. And the 9,500 is from the 5,000 pesos incurred in 2023 and the remaining 4,500 from the 2022 excess MCIT. So let us discuss another problem for corporate income tax, and this time this is for the quarterly reporting of income tax return. So before we proceed to the problem, so let us recall the discussion on the quarterly filing of income tax return for a corporate taxpayer. Again, RCIT and MCIT is being computed on an annual basis because tax reporting is on an annual basis. However, since there is also a quarterly reporting of income tax, MCIT and RCIT can also be computed on a quarterly basis. So that means the income tax payable by the entity or the corporate taxpayer should also be the higher amount between RCIT and MCIT on a quarterly basis. However, the only difference between quarterly and annual reporting is the treatment for excess MCIT. The excess MCIT is only computed on an annual basis. However, on a quarterly basis, excess MCIT is not computed. It means that if the MCIT is greater than RCIT during the first 3 quarters of the year, the excess MCIT is ignored because excess MCIT shall only be computed at the end of fourth quarter. However, the excess MCIT from prior years can be deducted from RCIT on a quarterly basis. What is not allowed on a quarterly basis is the computation of the excess MCIT once MCIT is greater than RCIT. So in our problem, the taxpayer is a domestic corporation and we have quarterly information for the years 2020 and 2021. So the information in our problem is non-cumulative because if you notice, the figures are not increasing from first quarter to fourth quarter. So it is non-cumulative. However, for quarterly reporting, it should always be on a cumulative basis. And the taxpayer has a prior year excess MCIT of 1,000 pesos. Then the requirement is to compute for the quarterly and annual income tax due. So let us proceed to 2020 starting with first quarter. So the gross sales is 250,000 pesos less cost of sales of 100,000 pesos. So our gross income is 150. Then deduct the itemized deduction for 145,000 pesos. So we have a taxable income of 5,000 pesos. And again, since this is the first quarter, so there will be no prior quarter taxable income. Because again, we need the prior quarter taxable income to be added to the taxable income during the current year to compute for the cumulative taxable income. So we will add another row for the prior quarter taxable income, and that will be the taxable income cumulative as of the end of the quarter. But again, since this is the first quarter, our taxable income to date is still at 5,000 pesos. Then for the second quarter, the gross sales is 250,000 pesos. Then cost of sales is 200,000 pesos. Gross income is 50,000 pesos. Itemized deduction is 40. Then the taxable income is 10,000 pesos. Again, this is non-cumulative. The 10,000 pesos is only for the second quarter. It does not include the taxable income from January to March of 2020. That is why in order to report a cumulative taxable income, we need to add 5,000 pesos to the 10,000 in order to compute for the taxable income for the first 6 months of 2020. So the taxable income for the second quarter is 15,000 pesos, and that is the cumulative taxable income which covers January until June of 2020. Now let us proceed to third quarter. So for third quarter, the gross sales is 290,000, cost of sales is 165, then our gross income is 125,000 pesos less the itemized deductions of 112,500. So our taxable income for third quarter is 12,500. Again, this is only for the third quarter, which covers July until September of 2020. And this is the non-cumulative taxable income. Again, since quarterly reporting requires a cumulative information, we need to add the prior quarter's taxable income. And since 2 quarters have already passed, we need to add the taxable income from the 2 previous quarters, and the total is 15,000 pesos. So our taxable income as of the end of third quarter, which covers the 9 months of 2020, is 27,500. Then let us proceed to the fourth quarter, the last quarter of 2020. So for the fourth quarter, the gross sales is 300,000 pesos. Then let us deduct the cost of sales of 260,000 pesos. Our gross income is 40,000 pesos. Then the itemized deductions is 48,000 pesos. Then our taxable income is 8,000 pesos, but this is negative, so this is a net operating loss. Again, this is only the result of operations from October to December. And since this is non-cumulative because the 8,000 net operating loss only covers the last 3 months of 2020, we need to add the taxable income from the first 9 months of the year. And the total is 27,500. So to get the cumulative result of operations for the year 2020. And the taxable income for the year 2020, which covers 12 months of operations, is 19,500. So since we are done now with the computation of taxable income, we are now going to compute for the RCIT and MCIT. Again, even on a quarterly basis, we are going to compare the RCIT and MCIT. So let us start with RCIT. So the RCIT is 30% of the taxable income. Since our taxable income for the first quarter is at 5,000 pesos, the 30% is 1,500. And since MCIT is based on gross income, so that is 150,000 pesos and the tax rate is 2%. So our MCIT for the first quarter is 3,000 pesos. So the higher amount is in the amount in yellow. So that is MCIT. Then for the second quarter, our CIT is 30% of 15,000 pesos. That is cumulative. So the cumulative RCIT is 4,500. Then, since MCIT is 2%, so the 2% of gross income is 4,000 pesos. Again, this is a cumulative MCIT. So the 4,000 MCIT is a cumulative amount, and this is based on 2% of 150,000 pesos and 50,000 pesos. Again, since the quarterly information is to be reported on a cumulative basis, of course, the RCIT and MCIT computation as well should be cumulative. That is why the RCIT is based on the 15,000 pesos cumulative taxable income for the second quarter, which covers January until June of 2020. Again, these balances are all cumulative amounts. Then the income tax due for the second quarter is the RCIT because RCIT is greater than the MCIT as of the second quarter. So let us proceed to the third quarter. The cumulative RCIT is 8,250 and this is based on the cumulative taxable income which covers 9 months of 2020. That is 27,000 times 30%. So that is 8,250. Then the MCIT, the cumulative amount is 6,500, which is 2% based on the cumulative gross income for 2020 as of the end of third quarter, and that is the total of 150,000, 50,000, and 125,000 multiplied by 2%. And between the two, again, the higher amount is the RCIT. That is why the income tax due for the 9-month period is 8,250. Then for the fourth quarter, which is the end of the year, so this covers the 12-month period of 2020. So the taxable income for the year is 19,500. That is why the cumulative RCIT for the year is 5,850 and this is 30% of 19,500. Then for MCIT, the cumulative amount is 7,300, which is 2% of the cumulative gross income for the year, which covers the gross income for the 12-month period. And the cumulative gross income in 2020 is the total of 150, 50, 125, and 40,000 pesos, then multiplied by 2%. So now let us compute for the income tax still due and payable for each quarter. So let us start with the income tax due, which is the higher amount between RCIT and MCIT for each quarter. So for first quarter, the higher amount is MCIT, that is 3,000 pesos. Then this will be reduced by any tax credits available. So our tax credits is the applied excess MCIT, but only against RCIT. Since the first quarter, the higher amount is MCIT, we cannot deduct the 1,000 pesos excess MCIT from prior period because again, the 3,000 is MCIT and excess MCIT can only be applied against RCIT once RCIT is the higher amount, and that will be in the second and third quarter, where RCIT is the higher compared to the MCIT. The next tax credit would be the CWT. And since the RCIT and MCIT are computed on a cumulative basis, of course, our CWT must also be cumulative. And CWT is the creditable withholding tax. Then for the first quarter, our CWT is 200 pesos. So we can deduct the 200 pesos CWT from the 3,000 pesos. Another tax credit would be the prior quarter payments. Since this is the first quarter of 2020, there will be no prior quarter. That is why this will be 0. And the income tax still due and payable for the first quarter is 2,800, which is due on May 15, 2020. So now let us proceed to second quarter. So for the second quarter, the cumulative income tax due is 4,500, which is RCIT, because this is higher compared to the MCIT. And since the higher amount in second quarter is already the RCIT, it means that we can now apply the excess MCIT against 4,500. And the amount allowed as a deduction from the 4,500 shall be the lower amount between the 4,500 and the available excess MCIT, which is 1,000 pesos. Of course, the lower amount is 1,000 pesos. That is why we can deduct only up to 1,000 pesos. Then the cumulative CWT is 350 pesos. So the 350 pesos is computed as 200 plus 150. Again, the CWT is cumulative because the 4,500 is also cumulative. Then we have a prior quarter payment of 2,800 because the 2,800 is expected to be paid on or before May 15. And since the 2,800 is already paid, it is deducted from the 4,500 pesos income tax due. And why is this deducted from the 4,500? Because the 4,500 is the income tax due for the first 6 months, which means this includes the income tax due for the income earned in the first quarter. And since we already paid a tax for the first quarter, it means that the 2,800 is already the portion paid out of the 4,500 income tax due for the first 6 months. So that is why our total tax credit for the second quarter is 4,150. So this is the total tax credits. Then 4,500 deduct the tax credits. The income tax still due and payable as of the end of the second quarter is 350 pesos, which is payable on August 15, 2020. Now let us proceed to the third quarter, and the higher amount is again our CIT. This is 8,250. Again, this is cumulative, which means this includes the income tax due in the first quarter and in the second quarter. That is why we can still deduct the 1,000 pesos excess MCIT because the 8,250 is an RCIT. Again, we deducted 1,000 pesos from 8,250 because the 4,500 is part of the 8,250. So if the 4,500 is part of the 8,250 and we deducted 1,000 pesos from 4,500, it means the 1,000 pesos shall also be deducted from the 8,250. Then the cumulative CWT is 600 pesos. That is 200, 150, and 250. Then the prior quarter payments has a total now of 3,150, which is the total of 2,800 and 350. Again, why do we deduct the 2,800 and 350? Because the 8,250 covers the income tax due for the first, second, and third quarter. And since the first and second quarter income tax due is part of the 8,250, and we already paid income tax of 2,800 for the first quarter and 350 for the second quarter. That is why we need to deduct the total of 3,150 from 8,250. So our total tax credit cumulative as of the third quarter is 4,750, and this is the total of the three tax credits. So 8,250 less all tax credits, the income tax still due at the end of third quarter is 3,500, which is due on November 15, 2020. Now, for the last quarter or for the year 2020, because the last quarter presents the annual information. So the income tax due in the fourth quarter will be the income tax due for the year. So that will be the higher between MCIT and RCIT. And the amount due for the year is MCIT because 7,300 is greater than 5,850 pesos. So this is 7,300. And since the 7,300 is MCIT, it means that we cannot deduct the 1,000 pesos excess MCIT because this is not an RCIT. So we have no tax credit with pertaining to application of excess MCIT against RCIT. And because of this, the 1,000 pesos excess MCIT from the prior year is not yet applied until the end of 2020. Again, I repeat, the 1,000 pesos excess MCIT prior to 2020 is not yet applied in 2020. Because excess MCIT is considered applied against RCIT only during fourth quarter or annual reporting. So it means that the applied excess MCIT against RCIT during the first three quarters are not yet final. The application of excess MCIT is considered final when it is applied at year end, which is the fourth quarter filing. So in this case, since MCIT is greater than RCIT for the year 2020, it means that the 1,000 pesos excess MCIT from the prior period is not allowed to be deducted and is still available for deduction in 2021. So let's proceed to the CWT. So the cumulative amount of CWT is 820 pesos, and that is the total of 600 plus 220, which is the CWT for the fourth quarter. Then the prior quarter payments has a total of 6,650. And this is the total amount paid during the first three quarters. So that is the sum of 2,800, 350, and 3,500. So that is 6,650. Again, the three quarter payments are deducted from the 6,650 because the 7,300 includes the income tax due starting first quarter until fourth quarter. So the total tax credit for the year is 7,470 pesos. Again, this is the tax credit for the year, not only for the fourth quarter. Then 7,300, which is the annual income tax due, less the tax credit, the income tax still due and payable is a negative 170 pesos, which means this is a refund. Or sometimes this is referred to as the overpayment. So when there is an overpayment, it can still be deducted from the next year's income tax due, that is 2021. And there is no limit or expiration as to overpayment. So it can be deducted as long as there is a balance of overpayment from prior periods. So since the 2020 resulted to an MCIT as the income tax due, it means that there will be an excess MCIT additional to the 1,000 peso excess MCIT in the prior years, because the amount of excess MCIT prior to 2020 is 1,000 pesos. And again, this is not applied in 2020 because MCIT is higher compared to RCIT in 2020. So instead of decreasing the 1,000 pesos, it will increase by the amount of excess MCIT in 2020. And that is the difference between MCIT and RCIT. So 7,300 less 5,850. The excess MCIT is 1,450, and that is in 2020. So at the end of 2020, the total excess MCIT that is available for deduction against RCIT in 2021 is 2,450 pesos. And again, the application of excess MCIT against RCIT is on a FIFO basis, which means that we first apply the 1,000 before the 1,450. So if the 1,000 pesos is already exhausted, we can now deduct the 1,450 against RCIT. So now let us proceed to 2021. So again, this is quarterly reporting. So let us start with the first quarter with gross sales. The gross sales is 280,000 pesos, then deduct the cost of sales of 105,000 pesos. That is a gross income of 175,000, then less itemized deductions of 157,500. Then the taxable income for the first quarter is 17,500. And again, since the quarterly reporting requires a cumulative information, we need to add the prior quarter's taxable income. And since this is the first quarter, there is no prior quarter to first quarter. So this is the taxable income to be reported as of the first quarter. But for the succeeding quarters, we need to add the prior quarter taxable income. That is why we need to add another row for prior quarter's taxable income to get the total taxable income to date. So the taxable income for first quarter again is 17,500. Then now let us proceed to second quarter. For second quarter, the gross sales is 290,000 pesos. Again, this amount is non-cumulative. Then cost of sales is 180. Then gross income is 110,000 pesos. That is the difference between gross sales and cost of sales. Then deduct the itemized deductions of 108,900. We have a taxable income of 1,100 pesos. Again, this is only for the second quarter, which covers April to June of 2021. And since quarterly reporting is cumulative, we need to add the prior quarter taxable income, that is 17,500. That is why the total taxable income for the 6-month period of 2021 is 18,600 pesos. And this is the cumulative taxable income as of the second quarter. So for the third quarter, our gross sales is 305,000 pesos. Let's deduct the cost of sales. Then the gross income is 132,000 pesos. Then deduct the itemized deduction for the third quarter is 125,400. So the taxable income only for the third quarter, which covers July until September, is 6,600 pesos. And again, since the quarterly reporting must be cumulative, we need to add the taxable income computed in the first and second quarter, which has a total of 18,600 pesos. And the taxable income for the first 9 months of 2021 is 25,200 pesos. Then last, for the fourth quarter, so this is the annual reporting. So this is for the year 2021, which covers the 12-month period. So unlike what we did in 2020, I've only computed for the fourth quarter taxable income up to this row. Then I added the prior quarter's taxable income, which covers first, second, and third quarter in order to compute for the annual taxable income. But this time, for 2021, I will present to you the computation that appears in the annual income tax return, which already covers the annual information, including the annual gross sales, annual cost of sales, and annual itemized deductions. So for the annual reporting, which is at the end of the fourth quarter, so the gross sales that will appear is no longer the gross sales only for the fourth quarter. What will appear is the gross sales for the year 2021, and that is 1,190,000 pesos, and that covers the 12-month period of 2021. And for the cost of sales, this is also the annual amount, which is 731,000 pesos. And this is the total of 105 to 273,000 pesos. Then the gross income is 459,000 pesos. This is the gross income for the year. Then the itemized deduction, which covers the 12-month period of 2021, is 417,000 pesos, and that is the total of 157,500, 108,900, 125,400, and 25,200. Then the taxable income for the year 2021 is now 42,000 pesos. And we will no longer add the prior quarter's taxable income because the 42,000 pesos is already the cumulative amount. And this is not the presentation of our computation of taxable income in 2020, but when you prepare the 2020 income tax return, the amounts to be included in the ITR form should be on an annual basis similar to this. But for 2021, our computation of taxable income is now cumulative for the year. So I did not compute the taxable income similar to what we did in 2020. Instead, our computation is based on the annual income tax return. But for the quarterly report, the taxable income in the quarterly income tax return is presented in this computation. Now, let us compute for the income tax due for each quarter. And again, since the taxpayer is a domestic corporation, the tax due will be RCIT or MCIT, whichever is higher, and the amounts to be computed must be cumulative. So let us start with the RCIT in first quarter. So the RCIT in first quarter is 30% of the taxable income of 17,500, and that is 5,250 pesos. So 30% of 17,500. Then the MCIT is 2% of the gross income in the first quarter. So that is 175,000 pesos multiplied by 2%, so which is 3,500. And the higher between the two is the RCIT. That is why it is in a different color. Then for the second quarter, cumulative RCIT is 5,580 pesos. And this is based on the cumulative taxable income of 18,600 pesos, which covers the first 6 months of 2021. So that is 5,580 at 30%. Then for the MCIT, this is 2% of the cumulative gross income. So this is based on 2% of the total of 175 and 110. So that is 2%. So the higher between the RCIT and MCIT as of the end of the second quarter is 5,700 pesos. Then for the third quarter, our RCIT is 7,560 pesos. So this is 30% of 25,200, which is the cumulative taxable income. Then for the MCIT, we have 8,340 pesos, which is 2% of the cumulative gross income for 2021 for the first 9 months. So that is the total of 175, 110, and 132,000 pesos multiplied by 2%. Then for the year, we have an RCIT of 12,600, which is based on the annual taxable income of 42,000 pesos. Then MCIT is 9,180 pesos, which is 2% based on the cumulative gross income for 2021 as of the end of fourth quarter, or the gross income for the year, which is 459,000 pesos. So 459 multiplied by 2%, that is 9,180 pesos. So now let us determine the income tax still due and payable for each quarter.
So let us start with the first quarter. Again, the income tax due is the amount higher between the RCIT and MCIT during the period. So for the first quarter, the higher amount is RCIT, and that is 5,250 pesos. And this will be reduced by the available tax credit during the quarter. And let us start with the prior year's excess credits. So if you remember, when we prepared the last quarter taxable income computation, the income tax due of the taxpayer resulted to an overpayment at the end of 2020. So in case there is an overpayment from previous periods, it is an allowed deduction or tax credit in the succeeding years. So there is no limit as to the deductibility of an overpayment. There is no expiration, so that is why it is deductible or creditable from the income tax due in the future periods without limit. So for 2021, the prior year's excess credits, which is the overpayment in 2020, is 170 pesos, and it is again creditable or deductible in 2021 starting the first quarter. Then, applied excess MCIT against RCIT. Since the income tax due in the first quarter is an RCIT, we can now apply excess MCIT. And the amount to be applied is 2,450 pesos. Since the available balance of the excess MCIT is 2,450, we can only credit the amount lower between the income tax due and the available balance of the excess MCIT, which in this case, the available balance is only 2,450 pesos. That is why we can only deduct up to 2,450 pesos. Then next tax credit is the creditable withholding taxes for the quarter. And based on the problem, 2021, the CWT for the first quarter is 200 pesos. The next is the prior quarter payments. However, this section is only applicable to second quarter until the end of the year, because during the first quarter, there is no prior quarter payments as far as the first quarter is concerned. So our tax credit would only consist of the prior year's excess tax credit, the applied excess MCIT and CWT for this problem during the first quarter. So our income tax still due and payable at the end of the first quarter is 2,430 pesos. So that is 5,250 less all the tax credits. The tax credits has a total of 2,820 pesos. And our income tax still due is 2,430 pesos. Then let us proceed to the second quarter. So for the second quarter, the income tax due is 5,700 pesos. And this is MCIT. So this time, the higher amount is MCIT. And this is the cumulative income tax due. It means it includes the January until March income tax due. So it means this is the cumulative income tax liability. That is why the tax credits must also be cumulative. So since the 5,700 includes the income tax due in the first quarter, it means we can also deduct the 170 prior year's excess credits in second quarter. So this will be our first tax credit. So that is negative 170 pesos. However, for the applied excess MCIT, though the 5,700 includes the first quarter income tax due, and from the income tax due in the first quarter, we deducted 2,450. In this case, we cannot deduct the 2,450 during the second quarter, because during the second quarter, our income tax due is not RCIT, it is an MCIT. We are not allowed to deduct the 2,450 even though the 5,700 includes the first quarter income tax due. Then for the CWT, we are allowed to deduct the cumulative amount, and the cumulative amount is 350 pesos, and that is a total of 200 plus 150 pesos. Again, this is cumulative. It means it includes the first quarter CWT because the 5,700 income tax due includes also the first quarter income tax due. Then, let us deduct the tax payments made in the first quarter. That is 2,430 pesos. Since the 5,700 includes the first quarter income tax due, and the first quarter income tax due has already been paid, we need to deduct the amount already paid out of the first quarter income tax in order to get the amount still payable at the end of the second quarter. So that is 2,750. So the income tax still due and payable is computed as the 5,700 income tax due, then less all the tax credits at the end of the second quarter. That is 2,950 pesos. Again, the tax credits for the second quarter is 2,950 pesos. Then our income tax still due is 2,750, and this is payable on or before August 15, 2021. And the deadline for the 2,430 pesos first quarter income tax still due is May 15, 2021. So now let us proceed to the third quarter. So for the third quarter, our income tax due is Mcit again, because the higher amount is Mcit, that is 8,340. Again, this is a cumulative amount. It means it covers first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter. So this is the income tax due for the first 9 months of 2021. Since the 8,340 includes the 5,700 income tax due for the first 6 months, and from the first 6 months income tax due, we deducted 170 pesos, it means we can also deduct the 170 pesos in the third quarter tax return. So that is why our first tax credit is the prior year's excess credits. And again, since 8,340 is an Mcit, we cannot apply the excess Mcit from the prior year. So that is 0. Then for the CWT, this will be the cumulative amount. So this is 600 pesos. And this is computed as 200, 150, and 250 pesos. Then, our prior quarter payments has a total now of 5,180 pesos. And this is the total of 2,430 pesos and 2,750 pesos. So why do we need to deduct the prior quarter payments in second quarter and first quarter? Because out of 8,340 income tax due, this includes the income tax due in the first quarter and second quarter. And the first quarter and second quarter income tax due were already paid. That is why we need to deduct the 5,180 pesos in order to determine the remaining amount still payable at the end of the third quarter. And that is 2,390 pesos. So the 2,390 pesos is computed as the income tax due of 8,340 less all tax credits as of the end of the third quarter. So the tax credit has a total of 5,950 pesos, and this is the total tax credits for the first 9 months of the year. So 8,340 less 5,950, our income tax still due and payable is 2,390 pesos, and this is payable on or before November 15, 2021. Then last is the annual income tax due. So now this covers the 12-month period of 2021. So that is the higher amount between Mcit and RCIT, which is 12,600. And this time the amount higher is the RCIT. And since this is the final quarter, this is the annual reporting, it means that in 2021, for the year, regardless of the amount due during the first 3 quarters, the income tax due for the year 2021 is RCIT, because the RCIT is greater than Mcit for the 12-month period. So the 12,600 will be reduced by the available tax credits during the 12-month period, and that begins with the prior year's excess credits of 170 pesos. And since the 12,600 income tax due is already RCIT, now we can deduct the available excess Mcit from the prior year, which is up to 2,450 pesos. Again, we can only deduct up to 2,450 pesos because that is the balance of the excess Mcit, and obviously the amount creditable should not exceed the amount available as a tax credit. So that is 2,450 pesos. Then our CWT has a total for the year of 820 pesos, and that is the total CWTs of 200, 150, 250, and 220 pesos. Then the tax payments during the first 3 quarters has now a total of 7,570 pesos, And this is the total of 2,430, 2,750, and 2,390 pesos. So it means that the remaining amount still payable at the end of the year is 1,590 pesos. And this is due on April 15, 2022. So our tax credits for the year has a total of 11,010 pesos. So this is the total tax credits during the year. So the 1,590 pesos is computed as 12,600 less 11,010 pesos. Again, the 1,590 pesos is due on April 15, 2022. Similar to the income tax report in 2020, although the income tax resulted to an overpayment of 170 pesos and the taxpayer has no amount to be paid because it is an overpayment, the taxpayer still needs to file the income tax return for 2020 on or before April 15. So it means that although we are not paying any taxes because it resulted to an overpayment, we are still required to file the income tax return. So this ends our discussion on the quarterly and annual reporting for a corporate taxpayer.